Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. And Senator, it's great to have you. It was obviously a funny appearance we've seen.
Well, first of all, let me interrupt. Congratulations on being spoofed on Saturday Night Live. It is a great flattering thing to be imitated in that way. And I love the person who imitates you.
It totally is. And also it's a little surreal to be in there. I didn't know, obviously, when I went, but just to happen to be there watching it was my first time. As it happened was also, just kind of a surreal moment. But on that note, it was a funny appearance. We've seen politicians do this almost every presidential election cycle. Trump hosted SNL back in 2015. We saw Hillary Clinton on. Tonight, Republicans are complaining, though, that an appearance like that one this close to Tuesday amounts to an in-kind contribution from NBC to her campaign. What is your response to that?
I imagine when I saw it, they probably invited Donald Trump, but he has trashed the show with such kind of really hateful language. I'm sure he wouldn't want to go on. But give me a break. They're grasping right now. Right now, the real issue is to get the work done. And that's what I'm seeing as I travel around to the swing states and beyond.
Yeah, and I should note, Brian Stelter is hearing the NBC stations are going to offer him equal time. We'll see what that looks like, how that shakes out. But you have been out on the campaign trail, as you just mentioned. And when you see this new polling that's coming out tonight, as we're looking, staring at these numbers, our final ones that we're getting before Tuesday night, one indication from ABC Ipsos shows that she's doing better among younger voters, among voters of color than President Biden was when he dropped out. But she's actually underperforming where he was in 2020. Do you think that's going to make a big difference on Tuesday night? Are you worried about that?
I'm not. I think at this point, the polls are all with their margins of error, not something to be looking at or relying on. We have got to do the work. And what excites me is that everywhere I'm going, today I was in black churches, I was at packed standing room only rallies. There is just so much energy and so much excitement. I was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for a canvas kickoff, and they could barely fit people in the room. So I just really believe that this is so close. When you're in an election that's the margin of error, as Ben Wickler says out in Wisconsin, their Democratic Party chair, he says, if you're in the margin of error, it really is the margin of effort. So let's turn all of our worry about the polls into work, our anxiety about what the pundits are saying into action, and any fears we may have about the outcome into fight. And that's really the focus in these last 48 hours.
Well, and as you know, the control of the Senate is also at stake on Tuesday. Everyone's focusing, 90% on the presidential race, but then we'll very quickly be watching that. And when you look at the numbers also today, that every Democratic Senate candidate right now is outperforming Harris in the states that could decide this election. Do you think we're going to see a significant number of people voting for a Democrat in the Senate, but Donald Trump for president?
I can't see that. And I talked to activists, I was talking to activists in Maryland who has a very popular Republican governor, but people were telling me that they're feeling very strongly that somebody that was picked by Mitch McConnell and threatens to overturn the Senate and is just unacceptable. Because, look, if Kamala gets elected president and she doesn't have the Senate, she can't, like Donald Trump or Obama, she can't, or Joe Biden can't get her signature legislation done because it will be blocked in the Senate. Common sense, as we saw with a bipartisan immigration bill, could end up being stopped. So it's really important, I think people realize, when it comes to control of the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, to vote up and down the ballot. And here's the exciting thing for me, having just been down in Texas a little while ago, you're seeing people like Colin Alred raise their game and really close that margin of error as they make Texas competitive. Who would have thought? You're seeing people that were counted out, like John Tester, making a late surge, and what's happening on the ground there is just so excited. I talked to people that were campaigning in a Native American area of the state, and they were just thrilled to see the energy and how much they're going beyond their expectations and the number of people turning out. So it's exciting.
In Texas, people always say, critics, I should say, will say, Democrats are like Lucy and the football there. They think they're always going to pull it off. We saw this with Beto O'Rourke, and it never quite happens. Do you think Colin Alred could actually beat Ted Cruz on Tuesday night?
He could absolutely. And what people don't say is, I hear this from my Texas friends all the time. They say, oh, my vote doesn't count. And I'm like, are you crazy? In the last Senate election there, if 10% more of the registered Democrats turned out, it would have flipped that election. All we need to win in Texas is to get a high turnout from people who are registered to vote. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And I'll tell you, Colin Alred's drawing a lot of people who even are Republicans who just are tired of extreme politics and want somebody like him, who's a very moderate guy who's made a reputation for bringing people together on both sides. This is an election where anything can happen. And so in that kind of election, every American should think to themselves, I'm more powerful in this election than I usually am because every place, everywhere, all of these swing states, it is such a narrow election. And we've seen this. Elections come down as with Bush v. Gore. Less than 600 votes in Florida decided it one way or the other. John Tester had an election decided by just about 1,000 votes. Every individual in our democracy right now, whether you're in a state that has a competitive Senate race or House race, or in a swing state for the presidency, you have a lot of power. So get out and vote. I love what Martin Luther King said. He said, the problem today, what we have to repent for, it's not the violent, vitriolic words and violent actions of the bad people, but the appalling silence and inaction of the good people.
Yeah, we could be in for a few major upsets. We'll be watching that very closely. Senator Cory Booker, thank you.
Thank you so much. Good to be on.